Every year, the fashion world bursts at the seams, quite literally, to outdo the previous year's designs. 2018 was absolutely no different. African designers presented show-stopping creations that pushed the global fashion game from the typical into the wild and the edgy and the exotic. Here's a summary of how designers on the continent took on 2019.
Kicking off Africa's year in fashion was South African Menswear Week in Cape Town, an event that has come to epitomize what is edgy and fashion-forward on the continent. But there's a rip in the seam when it comes to mentoring and promoting young designers.
I think that we really need to pay attention to young African fashion designers in terms of providing, in fact, a lot of the countries in Europe and in the US are taking a lot of ideas from African designers. And I think that the more we can create platforms for them to express their creativity, the better for them to create economic opportunities in the industry.
Crossing over to West Africa, Nigeria hosted one of Africa's biggest fashion events, attracting over 45 designers from 14 countries worldwide, as well as supermodel Naomi Campbell, making a big statement about the uniqueness of African designs.
I don't think that we're more important because we're being discovered by the outside. We always were important. We've always worn these clothes. It is interesting and nice that we're getting noticed for our things, but it's nothing new to us. We've always dressed like this. We've got a lot of style. It's nothing new, and the world is lucky that they're getting to see what we've done all this time.
Ghana has also caught the international fashion spotlight due to celebrity endorsements and fast-rising fashion designers.
I have a lot of aspirations on taking my brand to a bigger global platform to reach more people, because we've gotten to the point when we've got so much good stuff here. I've got so much good stuff here, and as a Ghanaian designer, we should be pushing to make sure that you could walk into a store in New York, maybe a Walmart or any other store in New York or Paris, and be able to find something that's from Ghana.
In the Democratic Republic of Congo, activists delimited global fashion by presenting models with special needs on the catwalk as part of an initiative aimed at fighting for inclusive representation in fashion.
Sometimes we see ourselves as people who do not have much value. We see ourselves as lesser than. But because of this event, I have regained confidence in myself. I can walk on the runway and forget that I have disability and forget about that complex.
In East Africa, costume designer Scholar Namwai showcased her latest collection, hoping to change mass market perception on fashion in Kenya.
I was searching myself and trying to find out what I really liked or what I really wanted to do. And I was always into fashion in high school. I loved modeling, I loved creating designs from t-shirts and fabric at home. My mom was a seamstress, and every time after school we would go to where she was training as a dressmaker, and I would collect pieces of fabric in the market and make some clothes for my doll.
With such diverse and talented designers hard at work across the continent, 2019 and beyond could present a blank creation canvas to celebrate unique and strong African fashion. Beryl Oro, CGTN.
All right then, it's all well and good for us to talk about the wider fashion industry across the continent, but it's always better to talk about the people who are actually making moves in that sector. Raulu Papula is the founder of Aramana International. It's a bespoke fashion brand based in Nigeria. He's with me in studio right now. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, good. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Happy holidays to you.
Yeah, same to you. Merry Christmas.
Indeed. Thanks for taking time out to talk to us.
Thank you.
You have a fascinating story because as I understand it, you studied microbiology.
Yes.
And then you ended up in fashion.
Yes.
How do you make that transition?
Well, back in school, I had problems getting shirts my size because of my height. So many times I buy size 16 shirts and then it's too big for me. Then I buy the size 15 then the sleeves are short. So I had friends who do fashion back then, so I have to amend those shirts to fit my size. So I had the interest in fashion back then. So I started off in school with microbiology, and then when I graduated, you know, in Africa the level of unemployment is so high.
It's extremely high. 13 million people coming into the job market every year.
So I turned into my passion and decided to pursue fashion.
Right. So you've set up the business. You have what, about 18 employees now in Nigeria, but you've also expanded into other markets across the continent. Rwanda comes up, Kenya comes up, South Africa as well. What is your game plan for expanding into those regions?
Okay, so let me tell you a little story about how I started. I started off in Ibadan. That is a very conservative city in Nigeria. So, not satisfied with the turnout of the brand in Ibadan, so I moved to Lagos, which is the commercial center for Nigeria. That's where you find all the celebrities and whatnot. So I moved there. So we're able to thrive. But the vision is to be a global brand. So I looked at it like, where do you start off in Africa? So I went to Ethiopia. That is where you have the highest representation of Africans. You have 55 countries represented there. So if you have a touch point from each country, then easily you have a person in each of those countries. Then I do the traveling, do the foot soldier work, go to each country. For instance, I'm here now. I'm talking to you. So
in East Africa.
In East Africa. So I started off going from country to country, so I can put like a brand presence in each country, so that it can have some form of association with the brand, so that by the time we launch the website of the brand, you have a sense of belonging to the brand. So that is the strategy.
I'm glad you brought up Ethiopia, because when we were doing some of the homework around this interview, one of the things that kept coming up was the fact that if you look at Nigeria's textile industry, for instance, in the 80s you had about 170 odd textile mills in the country. Now we're down to 30. Ethiopia, on the other hand, has been investing heavily in textile and apparel sectors. They've basically made it their raison d'etre to essentially say, this is our export expertise, come in here, we'll help you manufacture your stuff and export it. Now that you have a presence in Ethiopia, now that you've established the links there, from a manufacturing standpoint, is that a place you could also do business?
Yeah, we're looking at that. As a matter of fact, I should be speaking at AU Summit, most likely on trade and industry, because we are looking at how we can have open borders on fashion, where they manufacture from Ethiopia, and I can use it in Nigeria. But the problem as it stands now is that importing from an African country to another African country is very expensive. So it shoots up the manufacturing cost of your items. So for now, it's still a bit difficult to have.
Actually, let's focus on that. Give me an example. If I order something from you in Ibadan today, right? By the time it lands at my doorstep in Kenya, what are the sort of tax hits that you have to deal with across that chain?
Oh, well, the only thing you will deal with is the custom charge at the pickup point. That's the only thing you deal with. We settle our taxes with our own government. Then DHL carries, then you pick up, and then you pay taxes, your import duty to the custom.
Right.
Yes.
But at the same time, whatever I end up paying will probably be a markup of several orders of magnitude, just because of the transportation costs, the taxes on your end, the taxes on my end, and so on and so forth. And that's the same pretty much across the continent, isn't it?
Yes, even outside of the continent. But the only difference is the import duty is lower outside than inside of Africa.
Wait, so it's easier for you to actually service markets, say, in Europe or the United States than it is to service markets here?
Honestly, it's about the same thing. It's just the charges are different.
Right.
Yeah, it's about the same thing.
Okay, so game plan. Let's say we're having this conversation, Christmas 2019. We've had the conversation, we've had 12 months to essentially expand across sub-Saharan Africa. What will Aramanda International look like by then?
By 2019 December, I think we should have a visual presence in at least 17 African countries and stores in about 5 of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Actual physical stores. Any countries you're looking at specifically?
I'm looking at Kenya, I'm looking at Ethiopia, I'm looking at Morocco, I'm looking at Ghana, Nigeria, of course. I'm looking at Dubai, I'm looking at US and Kigali.
Why Dubai?
Well, Dubai, it's a beautiful market, a tourist market. People come from different parts of the world to Dubai. So if you have a traditional item there. People that don't travel to Africa but go to Dubai can easily pick up my items in Dubai.
Actually, that's a very good point. All right, best of luck. Let's have this conversation in December next year.
No problem.
All right, and you're also on Instagram, I believe, Araman International, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
yes.
perfect. We'll certainly keep an eye on your business.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.